my family, like I said, it's a very big, loving, loud family. But the boundaries, we didn't grow up with that. And so my aunt marries into this family, and she grew up with boundaries. So it's unknown to us. And I remember her telling me when I was in college, her husband was wanting me to come and stay with them over the summer. And I was telling him why I couldn't, what I had to do. And she said, Emily, you don't owe him an explanation. I had never heard that before. She said, you have things that you want to do. And of course, that upset my uncle. And he's like, she's family. She needs to be here. I don't even remember where it went from there, but I had never thought of that before, because I think even too, as a woman, we feel that we need to provide an explanation for if we say no to something. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for episode 3 of At Home with Emily, a podcast about creating a life you love. I'm your host, Emily Wood. So glad that you are with us today, because we are in the thick of it. And if you're listening or watching and you have kids, I'm proud of you. You were able to put this podcast on top of everything else. And my special guest today is a master at many things that I am not a master at. So I love that about you. Susan Brawley, life coach, a mentor to so many. She's a speaker. She's an author. And Susan, I know you. So I know that while the rest of us are scrambling around at Walmart tonight to get the last minute supplies, you've had them for weeks, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. July.
Yeah. So she's super organized. I love that about her. And she helps all of us who are not as organized get better at all of those types of things. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed, you are not alone. I think that most of us are feeling that right now. If you have a kid starting kindergarten, or maybe you have one graduating this year, the only cool customer that I know, because I just want to give a shout out to her, is my friend Betsy. Betsy, you're amazing. Every day on the first day of school, she goes on social and she posts a picture at the pool.
Nice.
And she's like, we've made it. We're at the pool. It's great. It's so, love you, Betsy. I won't make it to the pool. On the first day of school, I will still be scrambling and trying to get everything together. So for those of us who are feeling overwhelmed, Susan, talk to us. Where do we start between the school supplies, the lunches, the teachers need a million things. They all have apps.
Yes.
Which God bless them. And we pray for them, and they're amazing. But it's a lot to track.
Yes.
I feel like back in the day, it was just like a note comes home and, you play a sport here and there. But it just seems like there's a lot for kids now. And for us as families, how do we not get overwhelmed by all of it?
Well, I want to share a quote with you. So there's an author named Christy Wright, and she says, believing that you have to do everything prevents you from doing anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So number one, you don't have to do it all. Okay.
Yes.
But because there's so many options, it's really important that you prioritize. So I literally want you, if you're listening today, to make a list of everything that's important to you. Title it, What Matters Most? What matters most to you? And you may come up with 20 things on this list, right? And it could be things like sports are important to your family right now, for you and your family. Your mental health, working out, spending extra time as a family, whatever it is, all these things that are important to you. And then you narrow it down to your top 5. 5 priorities for the season that you're in.
That doesn't seem like very many.
I know. But look, you can't do it all. So in this season, let's say this school year, this fall, or literally just season of, if you have a newborn, if you have ailing parents, the season that you're in, what are your top 5 priorities for that season? Knowing you can access the other ones later, maybe in the future. But you have to pick 5 things that are really important to your family. So you and your spouse talk about it, and then you use that to filter all the decisions you make of how you spend your time. Because you're in charge of your time, but you need to prioritize how you want to spend it based on your priorities. So let's say you might say spending time together as a family is important. Working out every day is important for maybe you and your spouse. Athletics is important, so sports are a priority for your family. Whatever they are. And then ideally, you're going to look at your calendar and you're going to make sure, like on your calendar, in your life, do your activities line up with these top 5 priorities?
That's tough.
Or...
That is so tough. As you're saying that, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, my kids, my spouse. Well, when's the last time you went on a date with your spouse? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like whenever you write those down, you're actually holding yourself accountable, aren't you?
Yes. But then you have to do something with it. So it's going to land on your calendar. And if you take a look at your calendar after you do this and you say, wow, there's a lot on there that actually doesn't align with our priorities, you're going to have to start taking something off your calendar or maybe off your plate. Right. So the top 5 priorities, when you really drill down, it lets you prioritize what's important, and they're going to be more effective. You're going to feel less overwhelmed because you are not trying to do it all, because you can't. You want to do some things really well and let go of some things that you can't do in this season, and that is okay to just do that. So first step is make a list of what matters most. Pick your top 5, translate that to how you're spending your time. So just looking at a calendar would be a great start to see, does our calendar line up with how I want to spend my time? Is that helpful?
Why do I always feel like I'm under conviction when I talk to you? I'm like, no, it does not. It does not align. Well, I think what's hard is you have your family priorities, right? And so you know what you're saying would even be a good family meeting, even if you have littles. Like, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're making decisions when you guys come to us with the things that you want to do, right? And so I will get, sports is a big one. And you guys are a dance family, and that's a big one. For me, I'll get, a mom text me and say, hey, does Milo want to play t-ball with us? And I always reply, that's not the question. Do I want Milo to play? Can I make it work for Milo to play? It's really it's mom and dad, but it's really the mom. If you're in a traditional setup, I think, where there's mom and dad, everybody knows that mom runs the family calendar.
That's right.
In our case, not well, but we still have it. We have the shared family calendar. And how many times do you find yourself telling your spouse, it's in the calendar?
All the time.
I put it in the calendar. Yep. But then you do have to repeat and communicate that message.
Right. Communication's key. Yep.
Right. So, for instance, at the end of the summer, we had 2 citywide swim meets. Okay. So I told the kids, we're just going to do the neighborhood citywide swim meet. And my oldest child, who is going into 3rd grade, said that he would like to do the municipal citywide swim meet, which is even bigger. And it was the following day. And I'm like, well, honey, you're going to be really tired. But instead of sticking to my guns, I'm like, he's worked so hard. We're just going to make this work. And so Ryan was literally on his laptop working from the pool because I had to be on a job site. And then we were the stress was very high. Trading off on that all day. So we start at 8 a.m. and it goes until 5 p.m. pretty much 2 days in a row just for swim. And I am super proud of them, but I could have held to it and given them the one citywide swim meet, right?
You could have, but it sounds like you made another choice, which was really smart. You delegated.
It's true.
Right? You couldn't be there. So part of when you decide how to make decisions of how to spend your time is if it's important to you, and in this case, important to your child, and you saw the benefit, you couldn't do it, but you had to delegate.
Yes.
So same thing in our family with swim. I had a really busy summer with swim. My daughter did swim team. My son did swim lessons. And ironically, they both landed at the same time frame for 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, how will I physically do that? It's important to our family. Made this commitment. Swim is a big part of the summer. I had to hire someone that could run one of our kids back and forth so that I was free to handle the other, right? So you had to delegate.
And guess what? You can't always do that.
Can't always.
So then that's when we have to make that decision, right? Where we're going to scale back.
Right.
And you're going to do a lesson a week instead of a lesson a day or whatever it is.
Right.
However you can make it work.
Right.
So, and if you're the second child, you tag along.
That's right.
That's right. How that goes.
That's just how it works.
Child, so you find your interest in what your older sibling is doing.
Typically, yes.
Yeah. We've all been that second child, and that's what Milo is now. I pretty much told him, you're going to have to learn how to swim because you're either going to be sitting at these swimming meets all summer or you're going to be in them, boy. And he was in them, and they've done great. And swim is something you're super proud of them. But then you do get to the point where it's like, are we doing this year round now? Mm-hmm. Because that's what sports have become.
Yes, they have.
And so how do you start making those decisions as a family? Like, I liked what you said where we have our priority list, but then when you're in it, it's not always clear where that falls in the list. So how do you start that process?
I'd say within your priorities, I want you to think about making realistic goals, right? So that could be, for example, the amount of time that you have during the week. What margin do you have to really go spend to go to all these events and these lessons? Is it 10 hours a week you can be out and about in the evenings? Is it 5 hours a week? So make a goal that's actually achievable and realize there's going to be a point when you have to start saying no, which we're going to talk about
I've never thought
a little bit later.
Making a certain number of hours. I've never thought of it like that.
Well, you just want margin because life happens too. You say yes to all these things, and then guess what? You get a flat tire or someone's sick, and then there's all this added pressure to even reach the goal. So you're going to set realistic goals based on what you can actually do, let's say around time with a certain priority that you've set for your family. The other thing I want you to think about is urgency and importance. So something comes across your way that's an opportunity to say yes to or no to or to try, or a decision you just have to make, period. How important is it? How well does it line up with your priority that you've established in your life? And then how urgent is it? Is it even like a short amount of time it's going to take? Is it urgent that if you don't do it now, then the opportunity is gone for a year? So importancy or important, how important, how urgent it is really important to kind of think through too. It's a filter when you're looking at making a decision. Does that make sense?
It does, but what I do is I make everything urgent. And I think that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So if someone gets a hold of me and they need help with something or they need an answer on something, and I like that about myself because, for instance, in running my business, I could have 6 or 7 subcontractors working on things at different times, and they need to know.
Okay.
And so that would be important and urgent most of the time.
That's a great example.
But what if it's, a mom from school that wants to know if we're interested in doing X, Y, or Z? Mm-hmm. Would that be important but not urgent?
Right, exactly. That's probably something that's important to you because that's a relationship. You want to be able to be a resource and to stay connected, but it's not urgent. So you're going to delay responding. And I'd love to talk at a later time, just even how we manage our time on our phones and how do we set certain times to communicate. That's a whole nother conversation. But I just think you have to decide, how important is this? And then what's my urgency level around it? And that allows you to say that'll be a to-do later or make a decision about that later. And then if you're working with a contractor, then that's urgent and important, right? So,
well, you were talking about boundaries.
Yes.
By the way, I grew up with no boundaries and in any capacity. Sorry, Mom. I love my mom. My mom's one of 8. So, she never even had her own room. So it's not her fault. She's an amazing lady, amazing family. But we just didn't really have that. And then I'm a middle child, right? Mm-hmm. And I've taken that into my family. And then when you have your own family unit and trying to have those boundaries, it is hard. And I'm a pusher. So I feel like I'm the one that pushes people to do stuff. And when they say no, I'm like, what? They were on our team last time. I understand that you're doing 17 sports, but why can't you add T-ball,
Right.
And you move on and stuff. But I think learning that skill, how do you learn to set boundaries for your own family if it's not something that's just innate to you or that you haven't ever really even done before?
Well, I think setting boundaries is really important to honor your priorities. So we go back to you have those priorities, the world and all the opportunities is going to try to overtake them. You're in charge of how you spend your time, but you have to learn to say no. So rather than, we're not talking about a physical boundary of shutting the door, but we're just saying, how do you protect your priorities by managing your time? And learning to say no is, I would say it's like a muscle. The more that you learn to do it, the easier it gets, the better you are at it. It's taken me a lot of time to learn to say no. But when you learn to say no, in a kind way, man,
I'm terrible.
It really is a way that you can feel good about, I'm protecting what's important to me right now. So I'd love to talk about the value of saying no. And then for those of you that are like, I don't really know how to say no, I have some phrases you can actually take and go try on for size. Okay. Well, a great one is when someone asks you, let's say they ask you to help with the school fundraiser. It's like one more thing. Could you help, get some donations, for the school fundraiser? Mm-hmm. And in your gut, you're like, rather than saying, can I let you know, which delaying isn't ever good. You need to give them just say no, but thanks for asking. It's just super simple. Don't have to explain anything.
Right off the top,
if you know it's a direct no, but thanks for asking. And they might say, well, but you have and then you can further explain, well, in this season, girl, I am maxed out and I just know that I wouldn't be able to give it the attention it deserves. So I'm going to have to say no.
Okay.
So recently, can I give you an example?
Yeah.
I had someone approach me and say, would you be on our team of people that we can call a short notice to make a large amount of food in the middle of the week and bring to an event? We need people to do that. And I said, no, I can't. And I knew to say no right away
I can't even
with
be
a smile.
Children, but sure.
And but some people don't like no. Some people push the limits, like yourself. And the response was, "What do you mean no? You could do that." And I said, "No, I can't. I know that I'm not able to meet that need, and I wouldn't want you to try to lean on me when I won't be able to fulfill that commitment." So I had to say no. So you might say no, but thanks for asking. Another phrase that you might try on for size is one is a little fluffy, but while my heart wants to say yes, meaning, boy, that really resonates with me, the reality of my time is it's a no. Okay?
You were so strong.
And I'll tell you where I got these phrases in just a minute because these aren't mine. And the last one is, thank you for asking, but I cannot give it the attention it deserves. You're saying, man, I know that's really important to you and that's really important to me, but I just can't give it the time and attention it deserves. So no, but thank you for asking. I can't give it the attention that it deserves.
Okay. My immediate thoughts, my aunt, she's a psychologist.
Yeah.
She married into the family, okay? And my family, like I said, it's a very big, loving, loud family. But the boundaries, we didn't grow up with that. And so my aunt marries into this family, and she grew up with boundaries. So it's unknown to us. And I remember her telling me when I was in college, her husband was wanting me to come and stay with them over the summer. And I was telling him why I couldn't, what I had to do. And she said, Emily, you don't owe him an explanation. I had never heard that before. She said, you have things that you want to do. And of course, that upset my uncle. And he's like, she's family. She needs to be here. I don't even remember where it went from there, but I had never thought of that before because I think even too, as a woman, we feel that we need to provide an explanation for if we say no to something.
But you really don't.
But you actually don't. And my aunt taught me that. She was like, you don't have to. And then another thing that I have been told by someone that grew up with boundaries was that guilt can be a very powerful mechanism that people use. And no one even has to use it with me. I use it on myself because that's how I think of things. So for instance, this year, over the summer, I'm working full time. The kids are home full time. I don't have a nanny. I have my mom helping. I have Ryan in and out as he can be, right? I'm teaching Sunday school every week, and I'm feeling the pull to do a 40-hour week of Bible school. How, may you ask, is that going to happen? But I was feeling that I needed to find a way to make it happen, even though I knew I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how you work through that. I mean, is that just something you have to practice at where, honestly, it was a relief not to do it?
Right.
That's the thing. But up until the week of it, I was thinking I should have done it. And then the week got there and I'm thinking, there's no way I could have done this.
Right. Well, I think it's going to go back to you've decided what your priorities are and you're going to stick to those priorities, right? And it's not really about pleasing everybody else. It's about honoring the priorities that you've set for yourself. And you do not owe anyone an explanation if you set a boundary. You really don't.
I'm going to listen to this podcast just to encourage myself.
Well, and there's a book I want to reference if I could. So those three phrases I shared earlier about how to say no, I did not come up with those. They're actually from the author Lisa Turkhurst. She has a great book called The Best Yes. That was a life-changing book for me, okay? It is all about how to say no and how to say no well and why we do that. And man, it is so freeing when you're like, I don't have to please everyone. I want to manage my time. I want to honor my priorities. I want to have control over my life, right? And so it's really important.
Your family functions.
Yeah.
Because as you go with your stress, then that starts playing out with the family.
Yeah.
And so in a way, you feel bad for not being able to do everything, right? But on the flip side, you're helping your own family thrive.
Exactly.
And I think that's how you have to look at it.
And you're teaching your kids some really great lessons. Like, wouldn't it have been great if at a younger age you would have learned the art of saying no and setting boundaries? And now you're going to teach it to your boys. And that is really a powerful life lesson.
I'm going to learn this, but
you are. You will learn to say no.
I will try. And then accepting that from others also.
Right.
I think is really important too.
Yeah, and we have to trust that if they're saying no, it's because they know that's what's best for them and their family. And then that just means if you're trying to get someone on a committee or to help you with a project, that they were not the right person. There's someone else out there who is the right person. So just trusting, all those details come together.
And you mentioned earlier, very powerful word of delegate.
Yes.
And you were saying, you delegate it to make the swim meet work.
That's right.
I didn't really even think about it like that because I was just panicking how to make the swim meet work. And I'm grateful that the kids were able to do it. But delegating, it's not just for hired help. It's not just for your spouse. I mean, hey, what about those kids?
I was going to bring that up. I'm glad you did. I think we sometimes underestimate how our kids are capable of helping in the family.
Like finding their own goggles and putting a towel pull back.
Contributing to the family. So in our family, a lot of the stressors come in the evenings, right? You get off school, you've got an hour or 2 hours before an activity, and then you get a restaurant for dinner, all the things. Well, how can the kids be more involved in just learning life skills and completing some of the things that need to happen that will make the family run smoother? Again, it's all about time management and being effective with our time. You can Google online different chore charts and things, but can someone help clear the table? Can the kids start to learn to wash the dishes? Can they go ahead and take care of those pets? Like, what are the things that need to happen that we can all be part of the process of it happening? And that really helps everyone breathe easier. And guess what? Things get done more quickly. We're all about saving time, being time efficient, right? Mm-hmm. So then we can't get out the door on time to go do the commitment that we've had as a family, whether it be a sports or whatever.
Also helps prevent yelly mommy.
That's right.
Whenever you get the system in place, and we lack systems. I'm not going to lie. We lack systems. But the kids can and do the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. That helps. They can and usually do clean the table. They can and do fold their own laundry.
Good job.
But for me too, though, Susan, like part of it is I'm okay with the fact that the house isn't great all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, what standard are we holding ourselves to here? That has to be part of it.
Right.
Like, it's okay. You're busy this week. You guys are going to work on it as a family Saturday or whatever the case is.
Well, I think I mentioned earlier about setting realistic goals. So, for example, sometimes, I have these big grand goals of I want us to have dinner at home 3 nights a week together at a table like I used to have. And I want to make the meal, right? I want to know I'm providing my kids with great nutrition, right? But then life happens, the van's at the shop longer. You forgot somebody at a haircut appointment after school. There's 45 minutes and you got to be somewhere. And you're like, guess what? I am not making dinner. I will get dinner to go, but guess what? I still achieved the goal of we ate dinner together. Yes. It just looks different. So you have to be flexible in how you're going to reach your goals, right? And not beat yourself up because life happens.
Sandwiches.
It can be. And so, just be realistic and be flexible.
Yeah. And it can be Chick-fil-A at least once a week.
We've done that, yes.
Giant chicken nugget trays. They last for a while.
That's right.
And thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of At Home with Emily. I hope you've gained as much valuable information as I have. It's been a joy hanging out with you. For the next episode, if you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one that drops. It's every Wednesday. You can also follow Around the Ozarks on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And you can go to aroundtheozarks.com and make sure that you are signed up for our weekly newsletter. We'll see you next time.